Hi everyone, I'm Karen King, and along with my co-host Salma Famradas, we want to welcome you to the Ultimate Health Summit, Live Life Well. We're so happy to be talking to Dr. Shiroko Sokitch today, who has helped thousands of individuals regain control of their health and well-being. Shiroko is a doctor who cares about you. Her mission is to help you heal, regain your health and vitality you deserve when no one else has found the answers. She does this by using a unique blend of Chinese and Western medicine to help you learn to listen to your body and to find out what works for you. Trained in general surgery and working as an emergency room doctor for 10 years while attending acupuncture school, Dr. Sokitch gave a broad range of she has a broad range of medical experience. In addition to practicing integrative medicine for 23 years, she hosted a public access television show, Perspectives on Healing. For 2 years, has had a Sonoma County news column for 15 years. The owner of Heart to Heart Medical Center in Santa Rosa, California, since 1993, Dr. Sokitch is an expert at using many modalities to bring your body to balance and wholeness. She specializes in acupuncture, chronic illness, pain treatment, hormone balancing, bioidentical hormones, digestive problems, and brain chemistry balancing. Say that with a full mouth. Thank you so much, Dr. Sokitch, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted.
Oh, we're delighted to have you. So, very interesting background you have there. A medical doctor, a former surgeon, emergency room doctor, then getting into Chinese medicine. What was really the motivation for that? What was it about Chinese medicine that so intrigued you?
On a simple level, I fell in love with the whole concept. I was in surgery residency during my second year, and I sort of had a midlife crisis where all of a sudden, it's kind of a longer story, because when the reason I became a doctor was because my great-grandmother, when I was 5 years old, was my very best friend, and she collapsed in front of me one day, and about a week later, they had to take her away in an ambulance, but about a week later she died. And I never got to see her from the time she collapsed until I was told that she was dead. So she was a devastating loss for me. And at the time that my mom told me that she had died, I was like, I'm 5. I didn't know what death was. I didn't know much of anything. But my mom said her heart had stopped beating. And I remember feeling, of course, this I've got to bring her back. What's going to make her come back to me? Bring her back to me. And I started imagining a machine that would make her heart beat again. And that was the day that I decided that I wanted to be a doctor. And the whole point of it was that I wanted to bring her back, and I wanted to save lives. And basically my whole childhood, my whole life, I have been wanting to understand what makes people well, and I've been on this quest. And so I went into surgery because the very first time I got to save a life was in surgery. And it was so exciting, when somebody was wheeled into the emergency room and he had a gunshot wound. This is in my third year of medical school, so I'm pretty young. And we took him down to the operating room, and I was just a medical student, so I just held the retractors, but we saved his life. It was so thrilling. Yeah. But then by my second year in the residency, I began to, it was very quick, within the first week of residency. Saving lives is different on so many levels. There's so many ways to save a life. There's so many ways to be engaged in that. And I fairly quickly saw that even the best of what I had to offer in medicine was not going to save everybody and not going to help in the ways that sometimes I felt like I wanted to. And so I had this midlife crisis sort of at age 27, where all of a sudden everything seemed to have no meaning. And I didn't know, I had dedicated my life, and this was the place that I had spent my whole life trying to get to. And here I was, and I'm still not doing what I thought was most important. So I started searching and I took a month off in my residency. And on, I think, probably the 5th day of my month off, I had a dream. And it was, if you stay in surgery, you will die. It was like, whoa!
Oh, that's pretty profound.
A pretty profound dream, yes. And, so I didn't quite know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do, but it somehow, some way, I got a book that was called The Web That Has No Weaver, and it was about Chinese medicine, and I had never heard of Chinese medicine. And I started reading this book, and it was like I fell in love. I fell in love with this idea that we were made of energy. So the whole idea in Chinese medicine is that we're made up of energy, and the energy travels through your body in certain patterns. And when your energy is out of balance, there are problems. And so that just made so much sense to me, like on some deep level. And I was like, oh, I've got to learn this. I've got to do Chinese medicine. And so when I left my residency at the end of my 2nd year. And I went to work in the emergency room. And then I went to acupuncture school. And I just sort of, like, everything sort of led one thing to after another. And it was like really obvious that life was guiding me, because I had already done 25 years of school by the time I started acupuncture school. And I'm like, what am I doing in school? And every semester, I'm that kind of a questioner. Every semester I would hear this question in my mind, what am I doing in school? And then something would happen to one of my patients in the emergency room or to me and my body, and I would feel that energy. And it was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep going. So I just kept going. I went to acupuncture school for 3 whole years. And that was how long it was in Seattle at the time. And then I had this dream of opening a medical center. And so that's how I got to where I am today. And everything I do and everything, like my continuous quest is to help people better, is to help people feel better, to help them understand their bodies. But for me to understand too, it's like this, it was that seed that was planted when I was 5 years old, that like never give up and always keep going, and the answers will eventually get there.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that book, The Web That Has No Weaver, I mean, so what does that mean?
The title?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful title. So this is the thing about Chinese medicine, is that it takes into account, so it's of course focused on healing the physical body. That's the whole principle of Chinese medicine, but the magic of life, that energy flows and energy moves in your body in the same way that it moves out in the world. And we're connected to everything, and how we interact with ourselves, with our food, with our bodies, with other people, everything matters. And so The Web That Has No Weaver, it talks about the mystery of life, like as if like there's a web of energy that runs our bodies, but where does it come from? That's how I interpret it, but I didn't write that book. So,
I know, Ted Kapchuk. Yeah. I kind of looked at that, and I'm going like, okay, let's get the Reader's Digest version from yourself here. It was, I kind of looked at it a little bit there, and it was, understanding some really fundamental differences, the key to, understanding the mind, and how to deal with different things like yin and yang and hot and cold, and even like chi energy, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole thing, yes. And when you think about it, the way Western science tries to approach our health is so very concrete, and it's to really hold it within the muscles and the joints and the ligaments and the blood vessels and all of that stuff. But there's so much more to health and healing. And, I've been a doctor now for 30-something years, and that is true. There's an additional element, or there are additional elements besides just the purely physical. Mm-hmm. And so I like that element of adding in the specialness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think some of these added elements could be related to people's emotions. Would that be correct? And their reactions to certain stimuli, and it's that flight or fight syndrome. Am I going to react, or am I going to respond? Those kinds of things, right? Because those all take.
In Chinese medicine, actually, there's basically two sources of disease. Disease either comes from inside your body or from outside. And every single organ has an emotional and spiritual function. And when disease comes from inside your body, basically it's an emotional onset. Mm-hmm. So each organ's imbalance has to do with some kind of an emotion. So.
Oh, and so do you know then which emotion has triggered a certain organ?
Yes. Oh yeah, most often, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've been trying to educate my daughter. She keeps coming up in conversation. She's, I guess, the reason I do this show. Asperger's syndrome, leaky gut. But she's the most volatile person on the planet, I swear. And I always tell her, you've got to control your emotions because it's obvious to me that when she has a massive explosion reaction to something, the next morning she's not well. And I said, there's just this association that she doesn't see though. I can see it, but I can't talk to her, right?
But so here's the interesting thing is you can focus on healing her physical body. This is one of my specialties because I'm expert at physical healing. You know, I've dedicated my whole life to it. By balancing her physically, she will do better emotionally. So it's a two-way street. So the emotions cause problems, but holding your body in balance helps the emotions.
Okay.
So telling somebody who's literally like a powder keg to control their emotions, it's impossible. So you've got to calm down the powder keg. So you work on her digestion. This is what I specialize in, right? You work on her brain chemistry. You work on balancing her diet. And when those things are in better balance, the emotions become more easy to manage.
You've been doing it backwards.
Yeah. So, but how does acupuncture now? How do you bring that in? You know, if we're...
How do I bring acupuncture in? Yeah. I love acupuncture. I've been doing acupuncture for almost 29 years or something. I still love it. I think it's amazing and magical. But how I bring it in is when I see a patient, I do acupuncture on them. And acupuncture balances your body. Mm-hmm. And again, that whole, so your emotions and your spirit and your physical body are all connected. And so that means they communicate with each other all the time. Well, we have access to the physical body. Sometimes we don't have such easy access to our emotions. Mm-hmm. So if you work on balancing the physical, then you can balance the emotions better, which then helps you spiritually. So it's like this multi-level. And not that many doctors or not that many people who do what I do come from that angle of using the physical to balance the emotional. It's like we don't think about it very much.
Right.
I'm a very emotional person. And I had many physical challenges of my own. And over the years, I have not just studied how to heal my patients, but also learned how to heal myself through balancing my body, healing my digestion, eating the kind of foods that help me stay grounded. That helps on an emotional level. And then, things like meditation techniques and other kinds of therapies begin to work better because the body feels okay.
Yes.
So that's what I would suggest for your daughter
Well, I know a couple of people that do acupuncture in town here, so I'll be calling them. But, she's so scared of needles. Is it painful? Is it painful at all?
Well, it depends on the acupuncturist. I specialize in doing it very painlessly. So you want to talk to the person. You want to find out if they do a Japanese style of acupuncture because that's more gentle. And there's ways of the Japanese style. Sometimes they don't even insert the needles. They just hold it there.
Oh.
With kids, I often do, I don't know how old your daughter is, but I often use a crystal because kids are scared of needles. So I just put a crystal over the points.
Oh.
So there's all kinds of ways to impact energy, so, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're a wealth of information, Shiroko.
So Karen was talking about her daughter with the leaky gut. So we're Okay, she's afraid of the needle. So where would the crystal, would you, the stomach area or?
Well, leaky gut is a complicated problem. There's many elements that affect it, right? So first of all, you have to know what's going on with the intestines in terms of, are there infections or bacteria?
Mm-hmm.
What foods is she reacting to? So you need to do a food allergy test. And you need to you have to do a lot of things.
All of the pre-work, right.
So if there's infections, they have to be treated. Usually I use herbs. If there's leaky gut, you have to eliminate the foods that are causing the reactions for a length of time so that the gut can heal.
Yeah.
And then actually there's a lot of people talk about using a product, using glutamine, L-glutamine as a healer for the intestinal lining. Once you reduce the inflammation, you want to heal the intestinal lining. But I have an actual favorite product called Restore.
Okay.
And it is made from invented by a gastroenterologist, but it's from rock. It's like from the liquid that comes from rock. So it's highly potent minerals. And it heals the intestinal lining. And when you have leaky gut, the guts are it's the cells, the junctions between the cells, they're broken. And so things leak into your bloodstream that shouldn't, right? So the Restore heals that lining. It's amazing how well it works.
And where do you get that? Just online?
Online. It's online.
Online?
Yeah. I think it's called restoreforlife.com, but I can't remember the total. But the product is called Restore, and it's a big bottle
Okay.
of liquid. Yeah, and it's easy to take. So I don't know how old your daughter is, but getting a teenager or young adult to change how they eat is sometimes a challenge. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
That's good. Thank you.
Well, that's interesting. So,
Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned that there's 7 keys to accelerated healing.
Mm-hmm.
Can these 7 keys can heal somebody at any age? Age isn't a factor?
Well, the 7 keys are, I'll just tell you what they are and then you can see. Yes, they can help you heal from anything, but they're not actual, diagnosis or treatment methods. They're finding the right treatment methods. So love is the first. So a lot of times when we have problems with our bodies, the hardest thing to do is to feel love for your body, to feel love for anything, right? You feel terrible, you feel betrayed, you think your body is not your friend. And so the first thing is to find a way to love your own body, to love your health, to appreciate all the things your body's doing. And this circles around to the 7th key, which I'll save to the 7th, but I'll just tell them all really quickly. So the 2nd key is learning to heal the physical, which I just told you how to do with your daughter, is like to find the root cause. And in my world, so one of the reasons I do Chinese medicine, one of the reasons I love Chinese medicine is because in some ways, it doesn't matter what your Western diagnosis is. It's getting the body in balance. And so I have 3 elements to getting the body in balance, and that's finding the hormone balance, immune system balance, and nervous system. And in the center of that, the gut is an element of all of those things. So it all really boils down to getting your gut healthy, but it's your hormones, your immune system, and your nervous system. When those are working, no matter what your diagnosis is, you can heal. And so many people, when they get a diagnosis, we focus on that diagnosis. So in Western medicine, if you have cancer, we're going to beat that cancer out of you, or if you have gastroenteritis, a digestive infection, we're going to beat that infection out of you. We're going to give you an antibiotic and we're going to make it go away. But we're not focusing on the whole body.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's kind of the difference between organic gardening and mega farming, where, we pour pesticides and weed killer and all kinds of things all over the soil, and then we expect food to grow from it.
And healthy food.
Healthy food, right. But in the organic gardening, we make the soil really, really healthy, right? And then food grows. Right. And it's the same in our body. You want the soil, the whole body to be really, really healthy, and then your life grows.
Right.
So that's the 2nd key. And then the 3rd key is learning to listen to your body. And your body's always talking to you, So like, let's say you're sitting in a position right now and you're not comfortable. You know it. You have to move around. You have to get yourself comfortable. Or if you wake up in the morning and you don't know what it feels like to be hungry in the morning, and you can train your body to be hungry, and you can learn to listen to it so that you know what it wants. So that is the third key. And the fourth key is finding your own unique lifestyle. So there's 5,000 diets. There's maybe 1,000 diets, right?
So
thousands
confusing.
of ways to exercise. There's so many ways to do things and to find what's right for you. And so by taking, the physical balance and learning to listen and the love that you have, the information comes to you in the right way so that you can find the lifestyle that works for you. So they kind of build on each other.
Right.
The fifth key is that emotional element, learning to master your emotions and learning to listen to what your emotions are telling you and how to deal with them so that they don't make you physically ill. The sixth key is one of my favorite because it's such an important element, and that is to never give up and to be patient and persistent. So when we have a physical journey, this is part of the seventh key. It's a journey. It's our mission to find the answers. And by finding the answers, like you said, you're on this quest of what you're doing right now because your daughter is...
Well, she's one of the reasons, yeah. And
one of the reasons, right? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm doing it because I've had my own health challenges and because my great-grandmother died in front of me. So everybody has their reason for doing something, but these are like our hero's journey.
Oh.
So our physical body can be as much of a hero's journey as the desire to be the best at doing something or the desire to have great relationships or whatever. A lot of things are external, but the most internal thing you can do is to heal your physical body. So it's your spiritual quest. So that's the 7 keys.
So can we go back to loving your body? Do you think the media really impacts us in that aspect? You've got magazines, and you've got the internet and this star and, these models and, the Cannes Festival and everything else. And you have these, size models coming up and, and then, we're envying and then we're looking, well, why aren't we looking like that? And then we get mad at ourselves. And do you think so media is, that's a key to it too, right?
That's only one level of loving your body. So how you look is one level.
Okay.
How you feel is another level.
Mm-hmm.
How you perceive your body as your friend or your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about this as this holy vessel that we were put on this earth to be in this vessel, this is our means of expressing ourselves. Our bodies are our means of expressing ourselves, our way of being on this earth. So it's even bigger than just how we look. Because how we look, and there's a million ways to look, right? There's a million things to do about how you look, but it's what does this mean to have this body and to live with it in the way that is harmonious to our existence, and to love it from the perspective of even if you don't love how it looks, which, eventually if you love it, you'll love how it looks too, but that it's the miracle of being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The miracle of having the gift of being in this body, like when you start thinking about spiritual things, there's that possibility that you won't have a body someday, so thinking about it that way.
That makes a lot of sense. Love your body. I think there was a news story about this, this 90-year-old. She was in a swimming class, and then, she, how they change and everything else. And so, she was changing. Somebody took a little snapshot of her, and, really tried to body shame her. And then they had an interview with her, and she says, I don't care. I love who I am. This is my body. I've had it for 90 years. And how many years I still going to be in control? So, yeah, but she was just like a firecracker. And I thought, how lovely. I think that's what you said here about, just love. She wasn't taking anything. She says, I don't care. This is my body. I'm in love. This is 90 years. This is me. And she was just, she blew the reporters away. She was just wonderful. I thought, I want to be that way in 90 years old. She was like a firecracker. It was always like, this is me. And
it is a shame that so much of what influences young people is that shaming of how people look. Because it also, as we get older, we're not taught that whatever we are is valid or of value. And it's so sad because the older ones of us are the carers of the wisdom, whatever wisdom there is to be had.
Yes. Yeah, so wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Is it necessary, Shiroko, to supplement, like to take all these vitamins and all these essential oils, or not essential oils, but your omega oils and things like that to maintain your health? Can it be overdone?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I teach a class on this whole thing. I have a little book about it. And, it's fairly controversial about supplements and whether we should take them or not. But think about how we live our lives. We live in a culture where where the speed, our bodies were designed when we walked or rode horses, or we probably just mostly walked. When we were originally designed, we walked. That was our method of transportation.
Yeah.
You walk millions of miles in your lifetime, right? Now we drive, we fly. Flying is over 800 miles an hour. And there's some people who fly into space, which is even faster than that. So that affects our energy, our cells. It affects and then you think about what we've done to our soil. Even if we eat organic food, our soil has less than half of the nutrients that it had 50 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, and then think about, like, I don't know if you guys have Whole Foods where you are, but just a grocery store, even if you buy organic vegetables, how many days have they been sitting there? And you know what Whole Foods does? They spray water to keep them fresh.
I know, they do that in our grocery stores too, or they actually have it sprays every minute. And I thought, ooh, aren't you rotting it?
Well, it's not necessarily, probably on some level it's keeping it crispy and fresh, right? But on the other level, those water-soluble vitamins are being rinsed out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're exposed to light and heat and air and they're sitting there for days. So we're not taking our food from the ground and feeding it into our mouths anymore, So what nutrients that we need are not necessarily as available. And then you think about all the processed foods, et cetera, et cetera. So the question, do we need supplements? Well, no. If you live on a farm and you eat your vegetables fresh and organic and you slaughter your own meat if you eat meat, or whatever. But we don't do that. We live very far removed from nature. We live mostly far removed from even being outside.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, if you think about it that way, we need supplements. Now, then there's the question of the quality of the supplements.
And what kind of supplements, and it goes on and on.
Yeah, and then there are so many health conditions that can actually be improved by taking certain supplements. And it's all, again, about balance. What does it take to get into balance? Do we need something added in? Do we need something removed? How do we get into balance?
Right. Well, there's
our body, and our body is telling us if we're out of balance, right? So
right. If it hurts, or you have a runny nose, or you have a headache, or it's always talking. Bodies are, I don't know if you have pets, but I always say, your body's kind of like a pet. You don't understand its language, but it's always talking to you.
It's true. Be quiet.
Do you have to go pee-pee? Are you hungry? That's really how we talk to the dog, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And what we do, most of us would never be mean to our dogs, whereas we're mean to our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
If your body's hurting, you're going to say, shut up, take a pill to shut it up, right? Or you take something to block the symptoms so that it doesn't bother you because I'm too busy. I can't afford to be sick, or I can't afford to feel you right now. Go away, shut up. Yeah. We don't do that to our children or our dogs or cats. Mm-hmm. So we're meaner to our bodies than anything.
Right. And so what would you say, what would you suggest to somebody who's in a lot of pain right now, and instead of grabbing for that pill that will take the pain away, what would you say to them in that moment? What should they do?
In that moment? Sometimes, now just not saying that the pill's not a good answer. Like sometimes when there's really bad pain, you can't live like that. You've got to do something about it. So I'm not against Western medicine. No. But I would say ask your body what it wants. sometimes a few deep breaths, sometimes listening really quietly and just feeling what's going on and asking it. I have a fair amount of knee pain myself, and so sometimes it'll act up and I'll just stop and I'll just put my hands on it and I'll just go, okay, what's happening? And feel it. Feel it, see what it wants, see if there's an emotion behind it. You can, a lot of times when we're in pain, emotional pain or physical pain, we won't breathe. And breathing is our natural way of moving energy.
Right.
So like even, I'm just noticing as I'm talking about breathing, it's like I talk and sometimes I think I don't breathe between my sentences. So just a big deep breath sometimes will relax things enough. Mm-hmm. Women maybe know this from childbirth, because you're taught to breathe through the pain of childbirth because it's so intense, right? Mm-hmm. So they have a more of a familiar of using their breath in order to manage pain, but you can use your breath in order to manage pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a great way to get centered.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in emotional pain, just a few deep breaths,
Yeah.
will
it changes the focus of your brain, right? Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, it changes the focus for your brain. Your brain's figuring out, okay, she's taking some deep breaths here. Okay, let's go that direction, and then rather than the knee, it just goes, okay, this is the breathing, right? Mm-hmm. So it gives it something else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. So you're a detective. So I'm sure the majority of people that come to you have difficult problems that probably nobody else has solved. So you're dealing with that kind of a patient. So, give us some additional examples how you've helped some of those people using Eastern and, Western kind of systems, synergy.
Sure, of course. It always helps to tell a story, and I have thousands of stories in my head. So.
There's always those few that kind of stand out in your mind, right?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the story of one woman who came to me. She was actually worked at Whole Foods, so she's already a specialist in supplements and things like that. And she was having a severe uterine fibroid, and she was at that perimenopausal age and she's having severe heavy bleeding. And she didn't want to have a hysterectomy. And so she was struggling with, because the doctors were saying, well, you're bleeding too much, we have to take out your uterus. And she just absolutely did not want to. And in the course of telling me her story, she told me that her son had died 2 years ago in Afghanistan. So he was a soldier. And she had 2 children, so she had lost one of her children. And she just said it very matter-of-factly, and she looked at me like I was crazy when I said, well, maybe she had PTSD, that she had post-traumatic stress, and that perhaps it was connected to her bleeding. She just looked at me like, you're nuts. And I was like, so I offered to do a treatment for her to clear the post-traumatic stress, so that to help her clear the emotions, because from the moment that she knew that her son was dead, that her whole life changed. Mm-hmm. And that there's acupuncture treatments that you can do that will clear that energy, because you become blocked in that moment. So I did the first treatment. She walked out. She didn't give me she didn't make a repeat visit, and we needed 7 treatments. So I was like, oh, she thinks I'm nuts. But I called her a few days later, and she said, oh my God, everything had changed from that first treatment.
Wow.
And so she came back and she had all 7. Her whole life changed. So she stopped bleeding from the first treatment. She stopped bleeding just by acknowledging the grief that could be connected to that. She stopped bleeding. And then, we tested her hormones. We did a lot of other Western medicine things. Like we tested her hormones and we looked at getting her body in balance. But the PTSD treatment, she had been stalled in her career, and she started doing a different career that she had wanted to and dreamed of and loved. She was able to fall in love again and find a man that matched her, because she was able to open her heart again. Like so many things happened. You wouldn't attribute them to acupuncture, but it was really the healing that changed her life.
Wow.
And it was because she was open to the idea, even though she thought I was nuts when I put the 2 together, the trauma of the loss of her son with the bleeding. but when she like accepted that, everything shifted for her.
Mm.
So I'm not saying I did anything. I just opened her eyes to what was going on and then helped her heal the stuck energy that was happening.
Sure.
Connection.
Yep.
And so that's just one of many, many, many stories. There's, a common thing that happens for people is that they have chronic digestive problems. So people who have really bad nausea and heartburn and trouble eating and anxiety. And the two go together in Chinese medicine. Anxiety in your stomach and your spleen, which is your digestive system, they go together. And I had one woman who came to me with she was so severe. She'd lost like 15 pounds. She was already thin. She'd lost a bunch of weight. She couldn't eat. She'd had every single test. She was always nauseated. She was waking up in the morning feeling sick, couldn't eat anything. And she had known me from before, so she emailed me and said, is there anything you can do for me? I said, sure, come in. And I showed her how that anxiety was connected to her stomach not functioning well. And I started a protocol of helping her heal her stomach using acupuncture again. But within 3 weeks, she was able to eat again. And now she knows how to manage so like that balance between the anxiety, the physical, so the emotion and the physical, how to get that balance.
Right.
Now she has tools that help her do that for herself, because I taught her how to listen to her body and how to eat the right foods. So, and that was, purely a Chinese medicine thing.
Okay.
Because in Western medicine, those things aren't put together.
No.
Mm-hmm.
In Chinese medicine, they belong together, and they're connected. And so, the other thing that was happening with her cortisol. So the reason she was nauseated in the morning is because her cortisol level was really, really high. And this is not uncommon. People wake up in the morning, they're not hungry and they don't want to eat. And quite often it's because their cortisol level is higher and their insulin levels, so it messes with their blood sugar and it makes them not able to eat. But then that generates anxiety because cortisol is an anxiety-producing chemical in our bodies.
Right.
So there's this interesting thing between our hormones, our digestion, and our emotions, like all together. And so I helped her balance her cortisol level, helped her eat the right foods, helped her get her stomach functioning properly, and that is how it all got put together. So that's putting all three together.
So we could actually nickname you the person who can put the puzzle together, because again, there's so many pieces, and the average person would say, well, I've got this, I've got that, I don't know how to put all these pieces together. And so,
and that's why I love Chinese medicine, because in Western medicine, each thing is isolated. It's
and there's a separate appointment. You've got another issue. You've got to come back.
But really, they're all connected, and that's I could go on and on and on, as you can tell.
Yeah, those are just
Very
wonderful.
passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah. You have. Here we go. We're all loving summer. Summer's here now, a little bit early. I love it. I don't know about your part of the world, but you just wrote recently in a blog, 5 ways to prepare for summer, Shiroko.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just take a couple of minutes and talk about ways for people to enjoy the summer more?
Sure, but I don't remember what I wrote.
Okay, well, one was lighten your
was
heart.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I thought, that was so cute, right? Because and so we're angry, and and we've got the sun here, it's going to carry on those fiery emotions, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So in summer, every organ has a season, a time of year, and the summer is the time of the heart and the fire. And so, of course, the heart rules the emotion of joy, and so there's the possibility of just, being extremely joyful. And so what you need to do when you're wanting to be extremely joyful is also to be grounded. You want to keep your ground. Like when you get too joyful, then you can become manic. And so then you get ungrounded, and then you can't sleep and you can't rest, and things start to go out of balance.
It's kind of like kids on a road trip saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Too exciting, yeah.
All the joy goes out of it, and it's just a nuisance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
And those-
it's all about balance again. It's eating
Yeah.
the right foods at the right time of day. And in summer, so you live in a place where winter is cold, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the Chinese philosophy is often about eating seasonally. So in summer, we have all these wonderful fruits and we have salads and things like that. And that's the right time of year to eat those kinds of foods.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a
Farmers
person
market.
who has digestive problems, if you eat those kinds of foods, you may have a hard time digesting them.
Yes.
And so to stay in tune with your body. So learning how to stay in tune with your body. The color of fire and the color of the heart is red food. So watermelon is a great food for your heart. Strawberries are good foods.
Raspberries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cherry.
And
Yeah.
And cherries,
Cherries are
yeah.
coming
But
up.
one of the other things about summer is the whole, like when we get really active and we're outside and we forget to drink fluids and to stay hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the really important things is to make sure that you continue to stay hydrated. And hydration is not purely water, it's also the electrolytes and making sure that you have enough of the electrolytes so that usually you get electrolytes in your food, but let's say you're too hot and you can't eat something because it's just too hot. Just make sure you're hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
If you're outside a lot and doing lots of activities, because you can get into a situation where you get suddenly dehydrated and it can be dangerous.
Right. Now, electrolytes, I mean, is water sufficient for that? Or would you have to go to something like Gatorade? Doesn't that have electrolytes?
It does have Gatorade. It does have electrolytes, and that is the traditional drink for getting electrolytes. But there's many other ways that are more healthy to get electrolytes. So that Restore product actually
Okay.
full of electrolytes.
Okay.
But if you're feeling dehydrated, you can take a teaspoon of pink or sea salt, pink Himalayan salt or sea salt, because that has all the minerals in it, and dissolve it in water and drink that.
Okay.
Coconut water is full of electrolytes, and it's a natural way to get all your electrolytes.
Okay.
And they sell powdered coconut water. You just add water, which I think is funny. Water that's got to be dehydrated. So Gatorade is so full of chemicals that, of course, if it's your only option, great. There's another product called Recharge. It's made by a company called Newton, and it's organic, and it has all the electrolytes. It doesn't have sugar added to it. So, but yeah, to make sure drinking a ton of water can actually make you worse if you're already dehydrated because you need electrolytes.
Okay.
So you got to make sure you get both.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. You'd also mentioned to enjoy the abundance that's around us in your blog. Embrace the longer days. Right? We love that. I was up at the crack of dawn with the birds this morning.
Yeah.
We just talked about staying cool, right? Which is with the electrolytes and things, and going outside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
And sometimes we forget. These are so simple, but, we forget where sometimes, people talk about we need to have that 4-hour, the 4-hour day, and some of us are, 12 to 20 hours a day or something. But these are things that we need to incorporate, in our daily lives because we don't want to have those sick days.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So, this has been very informative here.
Awesome. We're going over our time, and we need to honor our time.
Oh, yes, yeah. So again, you've been practicing a blend of Chinese and Western medicine for almost 30 years, including, 10 years an ER doctor. And I think I ran over the statistic here that, you've helped over probably 40,000 people heal their lives. So, wow, that's an incredible amount of people. So what is your best advice for somebody who wants ultimate health and live life well now? Give us 3 things that they can start to do right now.
Love your body.
Love
So
your
the
body.
first thing is love. I think the 3 main things I would say is 1 is to love, 2 is to never give up, like whatever your challenge is, to just keep on going, because you will find somebody who will help you with the answers. It could be some obscure article that you read someplace, or watching a summit like this, or something that will give you an answer that will help you. And everything that you do, even if it looks like it didn't help, is a part of your journey of learning how to heal. So that. And then the third thing is to learn to listen to your body. So you are like, no matter how much experience I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of experience, that I don't live inside your body. You know, like
Right.
you live inside your body. So my patients, they come to me and they say, well, you gave me this, but it doesn't work. Well, that's why there's thousands of ways to do things. This is because that may not work for you, but maybe this works for you, or maybe this other thing works for you, you know. And that's why there's so many of us. It's like we have ways of doing things. We have different ways that help. And if you learn to listen, then you will find the right thing for you.
Right.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Love, listen, never give up. Wonderful. Thank you very, very, very much for joining us. We've enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it too. Yeah.
Giving us some great information.
I'm just going to quickly lead people to your special offer, and that's the top 20 supplements for healthy living, is it? The program of, here's a testimonial from Jai. Is it Jai G? Dr. Sokitch is not only a highly intelligent and gifted physician, she's a compassionate person who knows how to listen. She seems to intuitively know exactly which modality or therapy, excuse me, to employ, and has a breadth of expertise in melding East with West over the years. Where did that come from? Excuse me. Over the years, no matter what ailment I was experiencing, Dr. Sokitch always, yes, always, had a cure and a healing touch. She was born for this work. So for those of you watching this presentation today, if you are inspired to go deeper with Dr. Sokitch's work, check out her special offer details by clicking the button on this page. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Just so
Really
passionate.
enjoyed
We really enjoyed this time.
Yes.
And you look great. Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.